Today, I want to show you guys something that I've done to many Jeeps in the past, but I've actually never showed you here on YouTube. So for those of you that don't know, this is my 2021 Rubicon 392. Now for the setup that I have on it right now, it is stock suspension, so that's no lift kit, nothing like that at all. It's also got 20x12, -44 offset, XD 860 onslaught, so it's a pretty aggressive wheel. It's set up really well, and I've ran these 20x12s on a bunch of different Wranglers in the past. I've always really liked the stance with that 4.5 back spacing. Aside from that, we've also got the 38-1550, obviously the R20 Mickey Thompson Baja Boss MTs. Now these are a pretty aggressive tread pattern. They look really good. They perform well on the street. They're not too awful loud, at least whenever your Jeep straight pops, so you don't hear it that bad, but off-road they do extremely well. Now just to go beyond some of the basics, of course we've done other stuff to this Jeep as well. Got things like the JL Taser, that way we're able to actually enjoy two-wheel drive in this beast. It's a lot of fun with that 470 horsepower out of the 392, the 6.4 liter Hemi, but we've got videos on all that stuff from the past. Today, I want to show you guys something that I've done to many of my Jeeps in the past before, one JL and a JK before in the past as well, running a similar setup, so 38-1550s and 20x12s. Today, we're going to be installing 2-inch spacers to make it the widest Jeep Rubicon 392 out there right now. To be 100% honest, I typically don't leave them on there very long. I don't like the look, especially from the front. With the setup we have on this Rubicon 392 right now, it's already extremely aggressive. If you extend anything out in the front a little bit more, it's gonna kind of expose that entire hub assembly. It's gonna show you all the stuff that the wheel is supposed to cover. So typically in the front, I don't like it. Now in the back, it doesn't really expose anything, so I don't mind, but I don't really want it to be mismatched, you know what I mean? If you get the right wheels right from the start, you usually don't have to worry about wheel spacers unless you just want to be a little bit extra. So today we're going to install them and see how crazy it'll make this setup look, and we'll go over who may actually need a set of spacers like this, or even just a little bit smaller spacers. So just to give you guys an idea of where we're at right now, you can see with this Sweet Tea sat on the side, we've still got, what, a couple inches of the tire exposed. 3, 4, it is a 1550, so it's pretty wide, but you guys can see until that lug pattern actually ends, we've got about 1.5 inches and probably about 3 inches, 4 inches until the edge of the tire, but we can see just how much space we have right there. Now, just to be sure we're going to do all this accurately, on this side, we've got a pretty similar, well, it's a little bit flexed here, a little bit more just because of the way it's flexed. And whenever we go to the back, it'll be the exact same story. So it's exposed just about the same amount from these fenders the way they're set up right now. So let's pull this thing around, get it jacked up, throw these spacers on, and see what kind of stance we get after that. Now these are the wheel spacers we're going to be using today. They were sent out from KSP Performance. Now one of the best things about these is they are specific and they are hub centric. So with them being hub centric, it takes a lot of that weight off of the actual lugs themselves and puts them on the hub the way it should be, the way the wheels should be designed as well. So that helps alleviate a lot of the stress that you'll put on to your axles, to your hub assembly, to your lugs if you don't use the right spacers. Now with all that being said, I've actually used these before in the past. It was the exact same bolt pattern on the Grand Cherokee whenever we tried to clear the 35s, but it's going to be perfect for the Wrangler as well. The exact same size, the exact same fit. Now they actually do include the entire kit, so it comes in sets of 2, and you can tell these things look pretty awesome. I opted to get the blue ones for mine, and it does come with a little bit of Loctite there, as well as instructions to tell you what foot-pound of torque these are going to require. You can see that hub-centric design right there. It's set up extremely well. It seems like an extremely tough material, and you can see right there, it is 5x5. and it is the right thread pitch as well. Now I will put a link in the description down below for these, but watch the whole video first to see if you like them, and I'm going to give you some more information. That way you can have a better idea of what size spacers you actually need for your current setup. Now if you have never installed a set of spacers before, this is essentially all you need. We've got a great floor jack, we've got an impact wrench, obviously we got our sockets there, and we've also got our torque wrench. That way we can set the foot-pounds of torque we need for these actual spacers. I'm gonna set this up in a time lapse, that way you guys don't have to see it all. I am gonna show you whenever we actually get into the spacers, but for taking off these massive wheels and tires that are pretty heavy, I'm just gonna go ahead and speed that up for you. So first things first, you're going to want to make sure you wipe this down. That way you can get a clean and even flush fit with these spacers. You don't want to have any of that rust or anything back here that usually does build up. So I am going to wipe it down. And you might as well wipe down your lugs. That way you don't have any extra shards of metal or anything like that. Then you simply just grab your spacers, put them over the top of the lug. And you can see with these, it's actually fit perfect around that hub. And whenever you go to turn it, you're not going to get any movement up and down or side to side, just whenever you twist it. And of course, whenever you tighten down these lug nuts, then you're not going to have that movement either. Now, it does come with the Loctite on these. I'm not going to use the Loctite on mine. I don't plan on keeping these on here for too awful long. I just want to test it out and see how it is. So if you do plan on running these for a long time and plan on keeping the spacers on, I definitely advise you to use that Loctite. Now I'm just going to cinch these down with this. I'm not going to actually torque it down. We'll grab the torque wrench for that. So for this specific one, it shows 85 to 95 foot-pounds of torque. So I'm just going to put 90 on it and we should be good. I believe that's what I did for the Grand Cherokee, because my torque wrench is already set for 90. And of course, if you don't know, whenever you're torquing these down, you definitely want to go in a star pattern. So you'd hit this one, then this one, then this one, then this one, then this one, just so you get an even spread of that torque. That way you don't get the first one down to 90, then this one down to 90, and then by the time you're back done, and this one will be really about 75 or something like that. Now, another thing you will want to consider is making sure that whatever spacers you get have the same thread pitched lug studs as your actual lug nuts. So you can obviously just look it up on Google and it'll tell you, and you'll just want to make sure the wheel spacers you get have the same thread pitched lug studs. A lot of them have a thing where you select what vehicle you have, so that generally works, but it's always better to be safe than sorry. Now for the rest of this, I'm just going to speed it up on time lapse so you know how to do it. I'm going to throw this wheel on, do the other one, and then we'll see how it looks. So now we have one side all finished up, and I want to show you guys what that looks like compared to not the stock side, but what it looks like without the spacers. So you guys can see right there, we've got about half of the tire sticking out now. Same thing for the front and the back. It basically cuts down the center of that tread almost perfectly, which is pretty cool. Now on the front, we are exposing some of the actual steering components and stuff like that. So you have a full shot at the CV axles. You've also got full shot at all of your tie rod ends and everything like that. But it doesn't look too bad the way it's set up. The way this tire pokes out, it does actually cover a lot of it, but if you get it at the right angle, you're definitely going to be able to see it. Now moving on to the other side, you can see it's quite a bit of a difference. So the spacing that we got is basically this full lug. If that makes any sense, this full lug is now exposed and it was covered up, as you can see right here, which doesn't seem like it would make much of a difference, but you can see whenever you just go over to this side right here, it does make quite a big difference. And of course, as we know, these spacers always create the illusion of having a little bit bigger tire, just because it does stick out farther. But this is what it looks like right now with this side being completed. I'm gonna spare you guys the time of having to watch me do this side. So I'm gonna go ahead and do it and we'll see what it looks like all put together. And just to show you the back as well, of course, this is the side with the spacers on. You can see that second patch of lug sticking out very nicely. And then this is the side before the spacers. So it's tucked in there quite a bit more. But we've just got this last one left now, so we'll go ahead and knock it out. So now we have got them all done, and I wanted to show you guys that same point of reference so we can tell how much wider it actually got. And as you can see, now we've got more than that entire lug exposed. So before we had about 2 inches left, you can see right there, and now we've got a little bit more than 2 inches, which of course it's a 2-inch spacer. There's a little bit more space there than just the 2 inches, but it's pretty darn close. But you guys can see just how much more of that tire we have exposed now. It's absolutely insane. Whenever you're looking at it dead on, you guys can tell right here, the stance of it is just quite a bit wider, obviously at least 4 inches wider overall. So it definitely changes that appearance. Now, like I said in the beginning, you can see some of that steering components axle exposed. You can't see the actual hub assembly. So that's the main thing I was trying to stay away from. I hate being able to see that extra stuff. Now, one thing to consider, in all honesty, if you guys have a similar setup as to what I'm running right now, I don't really advise you getting spacers. You really shouldn't need it. If you're buying new wheels and new tires, don't plan on having to buy spacers, but I think they serve a great purpose if you do already have a set of wheels and tires, or you just have a set of wheels, you're wanting to put some different tires on there. It'll definitely save you some money instead of getting new wheels, that's for sure. And you get that same look in terms of a lot of the different angles. Now, one thing about spacers, like I say, you do want to get hub centric. So the ones I have tagged down below, I'll have their store attached as well. They're great spacers. They're going to be measured up correctly. You're not going to have any issues with them as long as you install them correctly. You guys can tell though, right here, it has changed the appearance quite a bit. Let's get a look at it from the back. It's just crazy how wide it is. I might just have to rip the fender flares off this thing, that way we get that full look. But you guys can see, it looks absolutely insane. And that back appearance right there is just crazy. But I do believe we may run into some clearance issues. Of course, like I said, this is no lift kit. So we're running 2-inch spacers, 38 1550s, and 20x12s with -44 offset. So technically, if the offset was just in the wheel, this would be about a -76 offset. Just absolutely insane. So we need to take this down the road and see how it's actually gonna work, see where we're gonna run into issues. I would say more than likely, we'll have to cut right back there. But like I say, I don't plan on running these forever. I just want to test them out and see what it's like. One thing that never gets old, especially with the top off. Well, the craziest thing so far is just being able to see that tire right there. I mean, it is literally right in your face. It's pretty crazy. But other than that, it's driving extremely well so far. Haven't had a single issue, so it's going good. So far, in terms of just turning normal, it's perfectly fine. But the second you go to make a U-turn or turn as tight as you can, it eats into the fenders hard, which is exactly what I expected. Now, granted, whenever I ran this on a 3.5-inch lift on a standard Rubicon, it kind of cleared a little bit better, but I did have aftermarket tube fenders, so I had that extra clearance that you need. Now, it's not digging into the actual rock sliders themselves, so that's a good thing. Obviously, we could just change fenders if you wanted to run it, but my advice, if you want to run this width, is either get that wide of wheels or just get full width axles, but it does work, kind of. Now, like I said before, the stance on this thing looks absolutely amazing, but it's just too much. So you guys may be able to see right here. So this is where I originally cut it out for the 38s to clear, but now it is rubbing in even further. So it's grabbing all the way back here and just rocking that fender flare. Not a big deal where it's all plastic, but definitely pretty annoying. And then on this opposite side, it's doing the exact same thing. Now, typically whenever I go riding and stuff, this piece gets popped out. So I did pop it in before I left to see if it would get popped out. It hasn't. That's even with turning it all the way. But I'm sure if we went off road or anything, it would just start ripping these fenders off. Now for the back, no issues at all. Obviously, it's clearing everything fine. It doesn't turn, so it's not an issue. It's just the normal clearance issue like normal. And you can see up here where it usually hits whenever we do go riding. But obviously, I'm not hitting crazy articulation on the street. So I had to run out to the gun store to pick up a new one that came in. And and it was a good opportunity to really test all this out and see how it's going to fit. But as I'm turning out of the parking lot here, I want you guys to listen and see if you can hear it grabbing everything. So this right here is almost, well, that's full turn. That's full turn and it didn't hit anything. Let me show you what that's looking like. So you can see hitting it just enough to be annoying, but actually whenever I turn to the opposite side, it's not rubbing at all. It's only rubbing on this side. So I'm sure I could do a little bit more trimming and it'd be fine, but I'm not gonna leave these on for too long. Well guys, now that we are back, we have finally tested it out and figured out all the failure points and what it does well. And to be 100% honest, it still drives the exact same. It is a little bit harder to turn in tight spots. I mean, you just don't have the clearance that we had the way it was before. I would have to do quite a bit more trimming if I did want to run this setup just like this for any longer than I'm going to. So that's something to keep in mind. I think these spacers would be a great option for anybody with stock wheels or somebody trying to clear some bigger tires on smaller wheels, you know, 8 wide, 10 wide, whatever the case may be. And if you just don't have that offset on your wheel that you need, the spacers can definitely help. Now with all that being said, spacers are great for the right application. For this, it just simply doesn't need it. But I hope you guys enjoyed it and actually learned something and hopefully narrowed in on if you need spacers for yours, if it would actually work for yours or not. Obviously, some cases it'll be extremely beneficial. In some cases, it doesn't really make any sense. But if you guys haven't already, please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you want to see next. But until next time, Godspeed.